is conducted by, oops, okay, let's talk about this first, sorry. Let me share some housekeeping information. Captioning, this session is going to be held in English. So if you need any language assistance or captioning, it's available. So please check your Zoom setting, or maybe in your screen, you can see a little language thing. Please press that button and then play with it so that you can get captioning on your screen. Recording, just like you might heard the announcement, but we are recording this session and it's going to be archived in Education USA Tokyo's YouTube channel so that you can look back later. Questions. Thank you so much for submitting your questions at the registration. Most of them are covered by our presenter's presentation today, but if you have another question or additional question, please utilize the Q&A box on your screen, and then you can type your question in English because our presenters are going to reply in English, so please enter in English. And then one more thing, if you can use reaction button, if you like the session, if you like the information, please thumbs up or heart or whatever you want to send. That'd be very happy for us to speak about. Thank you so much. Like I said, Education USA, we're hosting today. I'm Tomoko Silva. Thank you for the heart from Education USA Japan Tokyo. And this is co-hosted by Education USA Korea. We have Minjae in the house. We are co-hosting today, and I'm so glad to have students from Korea, Japan, other places as well. So please check our website, Education USA Japan, Education USA Korea, or Education USA all over the world. So today's agenda, briefly, I'm going to talk maybe 5 minutes of opening this session. And then after that, presentations by Johns Hopkins University and Georgetown University. And then followed by that, after that, Q&A session will be there, maybe 15 minutes. After that, I'm closing out. So if you have any questions, you can type in now or later so that our speakers can talk and reply to your questions at 10:45 to 11. Education USA, as in case you don't know, we are the network created by State Department in Washington, D.C., and we have more than 400 centers around the world, 170 countries. So, well, let's say if you're from Thailand or Taiwan, don't worry, you have your Education USA centers in your countries, in your places. So please check Education USA website as well. The site will be on the chat box, so please check that later. Other than that, we have more helpful and informative sessions and events. So Education USA Korea is holding graduate school fair next week, which is great. One in Busan, one in Seoul. So if you're nearby, please go and join the fair. And for Education USA Japan, we have College Fair in Naha. It's been a while we visited Okinawan Island, so it's going to be a great opportunity for you to collect the information if you're in that area. So other than that, we have all the information, events and programs through Instagram, and then sometimes we have scholarship a lot as well. So please follow our Instagrams and then website. We have a lot, tons of information there. So please check our website, and if you have any information, maybe you can get information there too. I repeatedly mentioned about scholarship, but it's really important. We have page for scholarships, how to find scholarships, international scholarships, or well, let's say scholarship for Japanese students, for Korean students. So don't forget to check our website. So thank you so much for bearing with me. Let me introduce today's speakers: Stephanie from Johns Hopkins, Ludovica from Johns Hopkins, and Ryan from Georgetown. And it's all yours. Thank you so much for thank you so much for joining us today. Who's going to talk, Stephanie?
Hi, everyone. I think we need to stop share so that I can start my presentation.
Yes. Please.
Thank you so much, Tomoko, for that awesome introduction. I'm just going to share our presentation real quick and then we can get started. So just a moment. All right, can everybody see these slides and hear me? Okay, I got a thumbs up already. Fantastic. Oh, I got lots of thumbs up. I love this crowd. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm so excited because I've heard that we not only have students from Japan, but we have students from Korea here and Taiwan. This is fantastic. We're very excited to be sharing some resources from both of our schools this evening. My name is Stephanie Tao. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. And I'm here with my colleagues Ludovica Pizzicelli, who is also from SAIS, and Ryan Airy from Georgetown University School of Foreign Service. We do use acronyms, so you'll hear us saying SAIS or SFS for short. So in case you didn't know what that was, now you know what that is. All right, so I'm just going to get started. Our agenda this evening, we'll be introducing our schools, we'll be sharing tips on how to apply and how to create successful applications. We'll be discussing financial aid, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So Johns Hopkins SAIS and Georgetown SFS, they are both located in Washington, D.C. We're on the East Coast of the USA. It's our nation's capital. It's sandwiched in between the state of Maryland and Virginia. And most importantly, for New York, for international students, we are a 4-hour train ride away from New York City. So it's very convenient to travel around the East Coast. Being located in DC gives students the ideal backdrop to study international relations. We're also in the epicenter of foreign policy and international trade. We're home to major research institutes, and we have access to lots of career networking events, lectures, panel discussions by a lot of visiting world leaders across the city. So you have access to lots of different things in DC. Both of our universities are a part of APSIA, and APSIA stands for the Association of Professional Schools of International Affairs. If you are just beginning your journey researching graduate programs in international affairs, I highly recommend going to apsia.org to check out this group of international universities. This group of universities is committed to delivering high-quality academic studies in international affairs. They take theory and put it into practice. They are well-established institutions, and they have career counselors and centers tailored to students looking for careers in international affairs. So one cool example of a university that is in APSIA, that's in your part of the world, is actually Ritsumeikan University in Kyoto. So this group of universities is not just in the US, it's all over the world. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to briefly introduce our individual schools. So I'll be introducing Johns Hopkins SAIS. Johns Hopkins SAIS, our school was founded in the aftermath of World War II. So our founders were the former Secretary of State, William Herter, and the former Secretary of the Navy, Paul Mitza. And they both believed that our institution should be playing an integral role in building the new world order. So our SAIS graduates have been trying to fulfill that promise ever since. And we have 3 campuses strategically placed around the world. So, you can imagine yourself studying European policy in Bologna, Italy. Maybe you're interning at a think tank in DC. Or maybe you're studying China's global engagements with the world in Nanjing, China. A lot of students will ask about the campuses, so if you do have questions later on about that, please let us know. I won't go into too much detail now. But essentially, we've had students, spend a year in Bologna, then finish their degree in DC, or spend a year in Nanjing and finish their degree in DC. If you don't want to be in DC, we also have degree programs where you can just go to Bologna and Nanjing as well. So these are some of the unique reasons why we want our students to study at SAIS. We have a very global faculty. Some of our faculty are practicing in their respective fields and they teach at the same time, so they really know some up-to-date information. We provide applied learning opportunities through our internships and capstones. And our mission is to provide academic opportunities that combine intellectual rigor with policy relevance. That's what we're known for. Here are some of our degree offerings. Our flagship program is a 2-year master's degree program. It's the Master of Arts in International Relations. We also have more focused programs in international economics, finance and strategy, cybersecurity, and intelligence. We have a variety of 1-year programs for mid-career professionals too. So mid-career professionals are professionals that have had anywhere from like 5 to 7 years plus of work experience. So that's what we would categorize as mid-career professionals. And we also have doctoral programs too. SAIS is committed to experiential learning through internships, staff rides, cultural immersion activities, and field research to gain firsthand experience with global issues and policies. Just a few recent examples are highlighted here on this slide. We had a group of students that went to Taiwan and they observed the recent elections, Colombia to study climate policy, and Kenya to study conflict management. So those are just some examples of places that our students go to. And that concludes my slides, I guess, an introduction of SAIS. So thanks everyone for your time. I'm going to hand it over to my awesome colleague, Ryan at Georgetown University SFS.
Thank you so much, Steph. All right. So my name is Ryan. I am a director of admissions at Georgetown School of Foreign Service, or as Steph says, you might hear me call it SFS. We love our acronyms in Washington, D.C. But the Georgetown School of Foreign Service was founded in 1919. We were actually founded for the U.S. State Department. So if you're familiar with the U.S. State Department and the Foreign Service Corps, you'll only hear the word Foreign Service in 2 official capacities in the United States, one at Georgetown University and 2 at the U.S. State Department for the Foreign Service officers. All right. And for those of you who have been to Washington, D.C. before, let us know. Drop a heart or a thumbs up. You're always welcome to come visit us in Washington, D.C. You saw some beautiful pictures of our campuses. On the previous slide was one of the iconic Georgetown University buildings as well. And SAIS has a beautiful building right by the U.S. Capitol. So we both have wonderful locations in Washington, D.C. We have 11 master's programs that I'll go over in a moment throughout the School of Foreign Service. We are the oldest School of International Affairs in the United States, so 1919. We're over 100 years old. And we actually have over 1,000 full-time and part-time students at the School of Foreign Service. About 30% of our student body is from is international students. So you would be in wonderful company at Georgetown and in Washington, D.C. We'll go to the next slide. Perfect. So you'll see on this page, these are all of our different programs. So we actually have our flagship program is the Master of Science in Foreign Service. So this is your 2-year full-time program. This is your general IR degree, your international relations degree. The reason is the Masters of Science is when it was founded in 1919, there was no such thing as a Masters of Arts. But the other good news is the Master of Science in Foreign Service is STEM designated. So if you are looking for a STEM designated program for the additional OPT, the Master of Science in Foreign Service is STEM designated, along with our Masters of Global Human Development. Now, you'll also see we also have programs in international migration and refugees, in security studies, and then we have regional programs as well. So if you have a more regional focus that you would like to do, you're welcome to do one of those programs, or maybe you're interested in the more general foreign service or migration and refugees, security studies, or global human development. We also offer a lot of joint degrees at Georgetown University, such as we have joint degrees with our law school or our business school or our PhD in government or our McCourt School of Public Policy. But we also have some joint programs with the Master of Science in Environment and International Affairs. And then we also have an International Business Diplomacy. And something that is not on this slide that we actually just opened is Georgetown's School of Foreign Service Asia Pacific program, which just opened this January of this year in Jakarta, Indonesia. So we have a program running in Jakarta as well. We have students that do the programming at Jakarta, or some students will come to Washington, D.C., and then maybe study for a semester in Jakarta. So this is just an opportunity to be able to explore some different areas as well. And I'll have you, next slide. Perfect. And so you saw all of our 2-year master's programs, or some are 1-year programs, but say you're interested in a general IR degree, but you're really interested in Asian studies, or you're interested in diplomatic studies, you could actually do a major or a graduate certificate. So think of this as maybe a second degree or like a minor in your degree plan. So it's not adding any additional courses, but it's adding some expertise in your classes. So if you're really want to focus on, security studies, but you want to focus on it from an Asian studies perspective, this is a good way to couple both of those interests into one degree from the Georgetown School of Foreign Service. So as Steph was saying, being located in Washington, D.C., it's really an honor and a privilege because we get so many wonderful practitioners at both of our institutions that come and they're working, during the day. They're really studying these areas of interest, and then they're coming to teach our classes. So you're really learning from practitioners, you're learning from full-time faculty members. So no matter what your interest area, if it's in international affairs or international relations, we have some great programs for you to check out. And I know a big question and question on everyone's mind is, what do we do with careers? What are you going to do after your graduate school, your 1-year or 2-year degree? Well, as Steph was saying, we are an APSIA school. So that means that we have a career center that is dedicated just for our schools. So SAIS has their own career center for their students, and so does Georgetown SFS. And the nice thing is, the people that work in these career centers, they're wonderful. Maybe some of them have worked in these companies that you see on the slide here, but they really know the ins and outs of these companies. They can help with the hiring processes. They do networking events. They'll do virtual networking events. They'll bring recruiters to campus. They can help you with your resumes, your cover letters. And both of our schools have Office of Global Services as well. So as international students, if you need additional support when it comes to navigating the visa process or anything like that, we're able to, help with that as well. So you'll see some of these organizations. Yes, some of them are U.S. government organizations, so they might not be so applicable, but you'll see companies such as McKinsey or BCG or Deloitte or the World Bank, KPMG, Ernst & Young. So you'll see that our students go into the public sector, the private sector, the multilat. I mean, really, there's a lot of different areas that students can go into. There's no one just single career path. Now, a lot of our students, some of them may come and go, they'll come and study in Washington, D.C. for 1 or 2 years, and then they'll go back to Japan or Korea to work in the government. That is very common for our students, but I know a big question on all of our minds is, where do our graduates go? So this is just a very small snapshot, but just know that we have career centers and we have career services that are ready to help all of our students and alumni of our programs. Perfect. And I will go ahead and hand it over. Ludovica, I think it's up to you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you all about what to do when you're preparing to apply and what are we as admissions professionals looking for in applications. So, whenever you're preparing your application and you're looking into schools that you're deciding to apply to, keep these four things in mind that graduate schools and IR tend to look for. They want to see a clear sense of professional direction. So, what are your career goals? What have you been doing so far to work towards those career goals? And how is the program that you're applying to a good fit for those goals? The chance of success in the program, how well are you going to do, not just in class, but are you going to be involved in networking? Are you going to be involved in student clubs? What are you looking forward to? And how are you going to add to the class? So, experiences and perspectives that help others succeed. We believe in US graduate schools that it's not just the strength of our faculty, but the strength of our students that add to other students' success. So, will you be active in the classroom? Will you be participating in group projects? Will you be helping out your fellow student and sharing your experiences to enrich their own experiences in the program? And finally, of course, aptitude for study. Graduate programs at SAIS, at Georgetown, and other IR graduate schools in the US, they're very rigorous. So, will you be able to keep up with the pace of those programs? And will you be able to invest the time that's needed to do well in those courses? So there's two general ways to look at admissions, and some schools may focus more on a formulaic approach, some may focus more on a holistic approach, and some may do a little bit of both. So formulaic approach, that's your grade point average, your GPA, your class rank if your undergraduate university has that, your test scores if you're submitting GRE or GMAT scores, which for a lot of IR graduate schools, including SAIS, they might not be required. They might strengthen your application. So some schools may have a GPA minimum or a GRE minimum. At SAIS, we don't. I believe there's no minimum at Georgetown either. That Ryan is nodding her head. So there's make sure on each graduate school's website to see if there's any minimums. But just know that you want to just put the most competitive application forward. So if you don't have a great GPA in undergrad or you didn't perform very well, maybe you want to study very hard for the GRE or the GMAT and submit those scores. But it's not just about scores. IR schools in the US typically take a much more holistic approach. If there's writing samples involved, we're going to be reading those. We want to see good resumes that show a clear picture of you as an applicant, show what's important to you, what you've invested your time in, and also a well-made resume is important. Recommendation letters, whether they're from professors or supervisors, which is particularly important for mid-career professionals. If there's an interview, we want to see what our interviewers, which sometimes are us, or they might be our students or our alumni, what they think of you. Would they want to have you in class with them? That's an important part of the process as well. So now I'm going to go over some tips for a successful application that applies to SAIS and Georgetown, but can apply broadly wherever you're applying in the US and maybe abroad too. So a big thing that we're looking for is demonstrated interest. So all of these things go into it. Prepare early. If you need to take the GRE or GMAT, prepare for that. IELTS and TOEFL. So this is a thing where a lot of schools may have minimums. I know that we do at SAIS for IELTS or TOEFL, and I see Ryan nodding her head as well. And a lot of times that's set by the academic affairs department. So those are important minimums you do need to meet. If you need to take an English class to improve, make sure you do that early. Gather any supporting documents. If you need transcripts, get those professors to agree to write letters of recommendation for you. If there's an early application deadline, that might help you because then you might get your application results sooner. You can start preparing sooner.
And looking into external scholarships, our friends at EducationUSA mentioned there's some scholarship resources they have. Fulbright, they have their own deadlines, so look into those early. Attend graduate fairs and events like the ones that EducationUSA shared, and there may be more online as well. Meet with admission representatives or current students. You can connect with them via LinkedIn, but also we often have ways on our website that you can connect with us and get your questions answered, but also let us get to know you. Complete any prerequisite coursework. If you need to take certain economics classes, check the university's application website just to make sure if that's something you need to do, and identify any weaknesses in your application so that you can fix those early before you apply. And demonstrated interest is important. Going to these events is important. It is something we look at when we're choosing to admit someone. Do they really want to go here? That's a big part of it. Next is the famous or infamous essay that goes with our application. So every school calls this something different. It might be a statement of purpose. It might be a personal statement. It might be an essay. But these are really important. This is kind of like your calling card. A lot of admissions professionals may go to that first to kind of get a good idea of who you are and what you're looking for. So we want you to do three main things in this document. Outline your qualifications, convey your passion, and explain your goals. So your qualifications don't just have to be your academics. It also has to do with your work experience, whether that's part-time or internships, postgraduate experience, even if it's not completely relevant to IR. You'll find that IR, international relations, it's everywhere. It's just how our world works. Business is international, environmental science is international, medicine is international. We get doctors who want to expand their knowledge of how other countries deal with pandemics or with emergency response. So really outline everything and show how it ties together. Volunteering is important. Any sort of life experiences that show your passion for international relations, include that in your essay. Include anything about coursework. Maybe you took an international relations class and it made you want to pursue a career, any projects that you've done for professors or with other students, any languages that you speak. Convey your passion. So what do you want to study in IR? International relations, like I mentioned, it's such a big field. So what do you want to study? Do you want to study conflict management? Do you want to study international security, international development? Why does it excite you? Was it a club that you participated in? Or like I said, a class, or maybe you heard from a really incredible speaker. And what motivates you? Are you motivated by a passion for public service? Do you want to make changes on a systemic level? Anything like that. And then explain your goals. So we can tell when you use the exact same essay for every single school. So personalize each essay to the school that you're applying to. Why this particular school? What is it that you like about SAIS or Georgetown or another school? Why that particular program? Why are you applying to a Master's of Science in Foreign Service versus a Master of Arts in International Affairs or a Master of International Economics and Finance? Why are you choosing that program? And what will you do with this degree? We all want our alumni to go on to do amazing things. So what will you do after you complete this program to make all of us really proud of you? Those are all things that you want to include in your essay. Another part of your application is to avoid common mistakes. These are words of warning that we want to share with you. So a big one is failing to follow instructions. Make sure you double and triple check the application website, sit in on information sessions about applying, and look through the application form questions carefully. So submit the requested information, no more, no less. If a school says no more than 3 letters of recommendation, don't have your recommender submit 5. If we say 500 words, please don't submit a 10-page essay. It just makes things harder on us, and it shows that you're not putting a lot of time and effort into your application, making sure that we get what we want. Making grammar and spelling errors is a big one. Have someone review your application. It's happened that people have submitted an essay to Johns Hopkins SAIS that says, "This is why I'm applying to Georgetown SFS." Please don't do that. Have someone double check your essay. Have someone double check your application to make sure that it's all correct. A big one is also being dishonest. So something that we've seen is that sometimes students didn't do very well a semester in undergrad and they want to explain why. So honesty is great. We do want that, but you don't have to overly apologize or overshare. There's usually a section in an application form that asks, is there anything you want to share about your academic history? And you can explain. One semester I did not do very well. I was going through some personal issues or some health issues, and then just leave it at that. We don't need a long drawn out explanation. And then share how you've grown. So if you did struggle academically one semester, or before you changed your course of study to what you really wanted to study, just share what you've learned and how you will make sure to carry that lesson with you. And now we're going to talk a little bit about financial resources. We did get a lot of questions about this. So we want to go into a little more detail about this. So there's a few different sources of aid that students can take advantage of. So the big one that comes from universities themselves is institutional aid. So pretty much every IR graduate school is going to give out general merit aid scholarships. And what these are is that they come from the institution's money, and they typically are looking at your merit. So what does that mean? That can be academic, it can be professional, it can be public service related. Some of these institutional aid scholarships are have particular names attached to them, maybe from a special donor that's close to the university. And they may be for specific students studying, for example, maybe tech and innovation is at SAIS. We have one like that. Another school may have one in conflict management or global risk. So make sure to read through each school's website to see all of those opportunities, and make sure that if there's an additional essay, to make sure that you write that, and that you're not about to submit right at the deadline and you realize, oh shoot, I should have written an essay for this particular scholarship. So look into those. They may have different deadlines. Many schools will consider students automatically. Some schools will have you answer a question. Do you want to be considered for aid? Not everybody does, and so on. Another option is employer benefits. So this may apply more for those who have several years of work experience. So for example, we do get a lot of students from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan or of South Korea, and they get funded either partially or fully by their employer, which is the national government. So that's something you might want to look into, ask around. You may have to agree to sign on to more years if at that company or institution. So make sure that you know all of the requirements before you make that decision. Another option is private funding organizations. So this would include things like Fulbright. They have their own applications system and requirements, but there may be others as well. So it's important to do a search for that. The organization that we mentioned earlier, apsia.org, they have more information about scholarships there. So that would be a great first stop when you're looking for private funding outside of institutional aid. And another note on institutional aid, before I forget, we did get a lot of questions about whether institutional aid is available for those who are not US citizens, and that absolutely yes. At private universities, some public universities which means universities in the US that are run by a US state, Those may have different requirements, but private universities, our scholarships are typically open to those from any nationality. Another option is student employment. You'll have to double check with your Office of International Students at whichever university you end up attending. But an option for students is on-campus student employment for international students. I don't know how long, if you can do it right away when you start your program or if you have to wait a little bit, but that is an option. This could be something like we have admissions fellows and they're students who help us conduct interviews, meet with prospective students. Other departments of the university may have similar ones. Another option is being a teaching assistant or a research assistant for a professor. And then many schools will also have research centers on campus, and they also can hire student workers. So that's something that you may want to start thinking about as you decide how you want to fund your program. And then last are personal resources. So if you're still at the very beginning of your journey, deciding to study in the US, start saving up some money now. And there may be loans available as well. So in the United States, a lot of students take out federal student loans. So it might be helpful to see whether your government offers such kind of assistance or what the options are in the private sector as well. And that is our presentation. We finished a little bit early. So before we get to questions, let me see if there's any questions that we didn't get to that we received. Another thing that Ryan shared from Georgetown is that they also have a pretty international student body. We both do. So whenever you're looking at schools, make sure to take a look at those statistics. Most schools will share those. Something that both schools I think might have are different cultural clubs. So that may be a way to get involved both with students from your country or your region of the world, as well as get to know those from other regions of the world who are also international students on campus. Let's see. Do we want to, it looks like we've got a few questions in the Q&A. So maybe we can start getting to those if that's helpful. So the first question is, would you tell us the key research themes in international relations study that both of the universities focus on or excel in? I think Georgetown did a pretty good job of showing all of the different areas of study you can have, regional areas. I think we both have Asian studies opportunities. We at SAIS have regional focus areas, which are, I believe, Asian studies, African studies, US, and the Americas, Latin America, and Middle East, I believe. So different schools are going to organize those regional studies in different ways. So some schools may have regional studies masters like Georgetown, as well as certificates. Within that, some you choose it as a part of your graduate program. Like we do at SAIS, you choose a particular regional focus area and a functional focus area. Those are like economics. I think we both have pretty strong economics and development programs. Georgetown has the science, technology, innovation, STEA.
International affairs. Yeah, very good. Yeah, very close. Yep.
And we have a tech and innovation type of track. So those are growing. That type of study in international relations is growing very quickly. And you're going to see IR schools focusing on that a lot. Things like artificial intelligence and international affairs, cybersecurity. I think we're both pretty strong in both of those areas.
Exactly. And I see some, talking about being strong in both of these areas, I see some questions about, what's the difference between SAIS and SFS or, things like that. But when it comes to your graduate school, it's all about fit. We're, top graduate schools, both based in Washington, D.C. We have wonderful resources in the nation's capital, thousands of alumni, not only in the D.C. area, but worldwide. So at the end of the day, it comes down to fit. Visit our campuses, visit and talk with our admissions team, talk to current students. I know we all have admissions fellows. So, learn from the students, ask them questions about their day-to-day life and why they chose certain schools. But we both have top practitioners or research opportunities and things like that. So, I'll let Steph and Ludovica weigh in, but I think, it really comes down to fit and, what your specialization will be. I think Ludovica did a really nice job. We both have wonderful specializations and whatever you want to focus on. So with either program, I don't think you can go wrong. So.
Another
Thank
tip
you.
I have is just to look at both websites and dissect a bit more of the curriculums, because the curriculums might be slightly different. And you might find one fits you better than the other. Like Ryan says, it really is all about fit, because you'll find our students, they graduate and they go into very similar careers and career sectors afterwards. So really digging and doing a bit of research on both schools can help out a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. And we also had a question about whether we offer double degrees or taking classes across their majors. So Ryan mentioned some joint degree programs that Georgetown does. We also at SAIS have joint degree programs at our DC campus, as well as cooperative degree programs at our SAIS Europe campus. The other thing is that often, while you may choose a specific concentration, you might still have electives, and that means that you can take classes that maybe are outside of your main concentration. Some schools can also allow you to take classes in other divisions of the university, but those may be on a space available basis. So that's something you might need to work out with academic affairs, but that's another option as well. So there's another question about having a lot of work experience and planning to complete a master's, further down the line, wanting to do our Doctor of International Affairs at SAIS, which is a practitioner's doctorate. But this person's undergraduate GPA was low. And the question is, how much importance do you place on GPA when applying to a doctoral program? And what is the minimum? So the issue here is twofold. One, academic performance, but also GPAs abroad may be calculated differently. So it's hard for universities to have like a standard minimum GPA. Some students will get a WES evaluation or something like that to see what their performance looks like on a US GPA scale. But I would say that every admissions office is different, but I know that for ours, we don't just look at undergraduate GPA, and often a subsequent master's or a great GRE score can make up for that low undergraduate GPA. So I always think that it's worth it to apply, and it's part of your application, but it's not the only part, especially for something that's a degree program that's practitioner based. Work experience is very important for that. Another question is about work experience, but in a different way. And it asks, would you say that work experience is prerequisite to successful applications? I'm only an undergrad and I cannot work full time. So I can answer for SAIS, and then maybe Ryan can answer for Georgetown. So it depends on the program you're applying to. We have a lot of early career programs where we get students straight out of undergraduate programs, or maybe a couple, 3 years out. So it's not a prerequisite for those programs. If you can't work full time, Definitely make sure that your resume shows any internships you've done, volunteering, student clubs, anything that shows experience outside of the classroom will definitely bolster your application. Now, if a program requires a certain number of years of work experience, the application will say that, and that might not be the right program for you to apply to. Ryan, do you want to add anything about your team?
Yep, I think ours is very similar. So, for example, our flagship program, the Master of Science in Foreign Service, we have students come directly from undergrad. About 10% of our students come directly from undergrad. And, you know, if you've had work experience that has pointed you to wanting to do international relations or adding to your, you know, interest in the field, I think that's positive. One program that you do need at least 1 to 2 years of work experience to apply to is our Global Human Development Program. So I always say, if you're not 100% sure this is what you want to do, go and work for a few years, right? Our schools have been around for many, many, many years, and we will continue to be around for many years. So if you want to go work for a few years and really figure out what you want to do, then that's okay. And then you can come back and apply to the program. So it's case by case basis a lot of the times.
Thank you. The next question is for us at SAIS, and it's about the campus exchange, and just wanting to learn a little bit more about that. Steph, would you like to take that since you did study at our Hopkins Nanjing Center?
Sure. So I'm a graduate of the Hopkins Nanjing Center. And so a little bit about our campuses. Basically, you can do a full 2-year degree in Bologna if you want. You can do a full 2-year degree at the Hopkins Nanjing Center, or you could do a full 2-year degree in DC. You can also do a 2-year master's degree program by applying to our Bologna campus for year 1, and then you'll come to DC your second year and finish off your degree. Or you can apply to the Hopkins Nanjing Center for your first year and then finish off your degree in DC your second year. So those are kind of how the campuses work. Sometimes, depending on capstone projects or internship opportunities, students might have an opportunity to go to the different campuses. But that's a little bit rare, and it depends. It changes from year to year in terms of like a study abroad type of activity. It's usually a year in one of the campuses at least, and then you'll have to finish in DC, or you finish your full 2 degree in one of the campuses.
Thank you so much. Another question I'll just answer quickly. So it's for SAIS, and it's about economic classes. So our requirement is not that you have completed the classes by the time you apply, but if you're admitted, then you need to have completed them with a certain score by the time that you enroll. So by the time you actually start classes. So if you want more information on that, please feel free to email us, and we can chat about that further. Another question is about English test results, and it's asking if someone graduates from a U.S. university and has a green card, do they need to submit English test results to the schools? So for SAIS, as long as you completed, so we have very, very precise requirements. So if you completed the entirety of your undergraduate study, apart from study abroad semester or something like that, if the rest was all completed in English, in a university where English isn't in a country where English is an official language, then you don't have to submit English scores. Ryan, do you all have a similar policy?
That is correct. As long as your undergraduate degree, or if you have a graduate degree that was completed in English, where the primary language was English, you do not need to submit the TOEFL or IELTS. It has nothing to do with citizenship. It's all about where you went to school and what the language of instruction for Georgetown SFS.
Thank you. So yeah, we have slightly different requirements. So make sure you double check each of our websites to see if you qualify for a waiver. And if you're not sure if you qualify to waive that requirement, just ask us directly and we can look into that for you. Another question is about how effective are our alumni networks? This person said, I've heard great things about both schools, but I've hardly interacted with my bachelor's alma mater schools network, so I can't begin to imagine what a strong alumni network would be like. Ryan, do you want to start? I feel like I keep starting with SAIS and then you
That's
answer, but
fine.
I want to let you start.
Oh, I appreciate it, but that's okay. Sure. So our alumni are very, very involved. So there's alumni clubs all over the United States and all over the world. And so alums get together all the time to, whether it's regionally or maybe virtually, to talk about their different experiences. They'll help each other with networks on LinkedIn. If you're active on the LinkedIn platform, there's different alumni groups. We have something called Hoya Gateway at Georgetown, and it's an alumni, kind of career networking opportunities. So alums that are hiring at their companies, or if you want to chat with an alum and you're a fellow alum at Georgetown, you can connect that way as well. So, LinkedIn is also a wonderful way to look up alums from both of our institutions. You can type in the names of the schools and kind of see the different jobs that they're doing and connect with them that way. We also actually have alums that work with us in the admissions recruiting side of things. So our alums are very involved and they want to get to know the next generation of students. And they like to give back to the university with their time and talent and treasures and things like that. So no matter which school you go to or wherever you go to graduate school, definitely stay in touch with their alumni network. And I will admit I am more active in my graduate school alumni network than my undergrad. So I appreciate this question.
Thank you. Steph, as a SAIS alum, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. So our alumni relations department at SAIS is super active in getting our alumni involved. It's very similar to what Ryan described. Our alumni are meeting in different parts of the world. Just within the next month, I think there's going to be alumni events actually in Tokyo. There's going to be another alumni event in Houston, Texas, maybe in Shanghai very soon as well. I know when I was living in the Middle East for a while, I met up with lots of SAIS alumni in the Middle East. And SAIS alumni are literally everywhere. I've lived in the Philippines as well and Taiwan, and there are SAIS alumni in both of those places too that I will randomly bump into. So, and it's just kind of like you gravitate towards one another or you find one another somehow. And I'm sure it's the same way at Georgetown SFS. So that's what a strong alumni network really looks like.
Thank you so much, Steph. The next question, I know that this is a hot topic and on the top of people's minds. It asks, with the new government administration, may the international students encounter problems with their legal status? How will your universities protect them? So we continue to monitor the situation. It's at the top of our leadership's minds, I'm sure for Georgetown as well. We both have offices for international students, and we have counselors that are specialized in J1 visas and F1 visas. J1 visas are typically for those Fulbright students that we have, but it can vary. And we do have people on call with if anyone has any emergencies or any questions that come up. But we want to let you know that we have been thinking about this a lot. Things keep changing, so we're just trying to stay up to date with anything that may change. And our Office of International Students for both campuses are very well versed in things that could happen, and they're preparing diligently. So we will be there to support all of our international students.
Yeah, and I
The
just want to echo
next,
that.
yes,
Same. Oh, yep. Same for Georgetown. So just wanted to echo that. Yep. Very well said, Ludwika.
awesome. Thanks. The next question is actually for you, Ryan, and it's asking if the MSFS degree contains science-related courses that differ from other IR degrees.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the main reason that it's a Master of Science is because when it was founded in 1919, there was no such thing as a Master's of Arts. However, recently we started a concentration called Science, Technology, and International Affairs. So we actually have 4 different concentrations. We have one in global politics and security, one in international development, one in global business and finance, and our newest in science, technology, and international affairs. So if you are taking the science, technology, and international affairs concentration, yes, you will have more science classes than other IR degrees, and that makes it STEM designated. But if you're not interested in science, then, you know, one of our other concentrations would be just as wonderful.
Thanks so much. I want to jump around because there's some questions that are very specialized towards the specific schools, and I want to make sure that we answer kind of the broader questions as much as we can first. So one question is about what do the Korean and Japanese student populations look like at both schools? Are there clubs or interest groups? So I can say that for SAIS, actually, one of the things that we do is every 2 weeks during the semester, there's a happy hour, and it's put on by our Student Government Association. And there's a different club that sponsors each one. And tonight was actually sponsored by the Japan Club, which is kind of an interesting coincidence. The Korea Club also sometimes will sponsor, and they do events on campus. They both bring speakers. Sometimes they do cultural events. I think that the students put together a Lunar New Year happy hour and kind of a fun event on campus. But we also have students congregate kind of just for fun outside of school. And we also have professors that specialize in topics that are close to home for our Japanese and Korean students. So there are different opportunities. Ryan, how would you describe at Georgetown?
Yeah, I think that's a great way. So yeah, we have like a Japan club, we have a Korea club, and you know, just there's a lot of our clubs are open to both graduate and undergraduate students at the School of Foreign Service. So it just really kind of broadens our horizons. And another thing I've noticed, a lot of our students from both of our schools, both SAIS and SFS, they will do happy hours or they'll do some, you know, outings in Washington, D.C. too. So not only, you know, are you getting to know the students from your own school, but our schools as well. So there's no shortage of clubs or activities that you can join and network. When you come into orientation at SFS, we have different breakout groups if you want to get to know people from a certain region or, you know, really start networking on day one. So it's really important to us.
I think
Thank you so
one thing
much.
to note about IR students in general is they love to chat. So if we're talking about networking, students are constantly engaged, they're socializing. So there really isn't ever going to be anything that you're not going to want to be a part of, really.
That's so true. We have our SAIS students. I also know a lot of MSFS graduates, and I will say that they're all very friendly people and are always wanting to learn more about each other and connect with each other as much as possible. There's a question about online graduate programs. So do we offer online graduate programs? We do at SAIS. We have 2, but they're very specialized. One is a Master of Arts in Global Risk, and the other one is a Master of Arts in Sustainable Energy. And I believe that they both require you to have some work experience in that particular field when you apply. Ryan, I don't recall if Georgetown has online.
Correct. We do not have any online programs at the School of Foreign Service.
Thank you. Another question is back to having a strong application. So this person asks, does it make a difference to send in a very high TOEFL score, even if your undergraduate studies were all done in English? Would that be a way to boost your application, or does it make not that much difference? I think that very high TOEFL scores are always very well received. If we give that waiver based on English studies, we're kind of taking your word for it that you're good at English. But if you can also show us via a really high TOEFL score, that can only improve your chances. What I will say is if you already have that score and you know that it's really high, send it in. If you are, I think sometimes you can designate a school to send your scores to before you've actually know what your score is. I would recommend to hold off on that. Same for GRE. Sometimes people submit scores automatically and they're not very good. And even if you score better later, we're still going to know about the worst scores. So be strategic. Just share the good parts. Don't really share the not so great parts, but I think it can only help. Okay. So another question is tied to that. When there is any minimum requirement for English test or work experience, does admissions merely check if the applicant has passed the minimum requirement or give more advantage to those with high scores? So it's both. You do need to hit that minimum. Some schools may be more lenient than others, and they may be more lenient with some things than others. But we still do look at your whole application, and we do evaluate your strength in different categories, for example. So if work experience, even if you meet the minimum, if you have really relevant and impressive work experience, that's going to help your application. And if you don't, you'll meet the minimum, but maybe you won't be as competitive of an applicant. So that's the thing, is that we're not just schools where you pass the bar, of a certain category and you automatically get in. We are evaluating each application holistically and compared to other applications. So that's why we really want to drive home the idea of making your application as competitive as possible.
And one other quick thing about that. So some of our programs at SFS, the minimum is a 7.0 on the IELTS or 100 on the TOEFL, but some is a 7.5 on IELTS. So just, a minimum is a minimum, right? So the higher above that minimum you go, the more you're competitive you will be. So like Ludovico was saying, so just always check whatever school you're applying to and whatever program you're applying to, because they can vary from program to program, even within the same school.
Thank you. I know that we've hit time, but to our organizers, it looks like we have 3 more questions. Is it okay if we answer those?
Yes, please.
Great. So the first is for us at SAIS. If I want to get into the foreign service, focusing on US, China, East Asia relations, should I apply for the MASCI program or MICE program? Does the MASCI program have a foreign language requirement? So just to explain these acronyms, MASCI is Masters of Arts in Strategy, Cybersecurity, and Intelligence, and MICE is Master of Arts in International Studies. The MAIS program, MICE, is only available at our Hopkins Nanjing Center, if I remember correctly, in China, and the MASCI program is only available in DC. So the MASCI program, I mean, it could help you if you want to focus in that field, if you want to focus on like strategy and security. But those courses are going to be very specific to that field. So it might not be as portable of a degree if that's what you want to do. MAIS program would be great if you have a fluency in Mandarin and are excited to write a thesis on that topic. I believe that would be possible. But the MASCI program does not have a foreign language requirement, which could be good if you don't want to learn another foreign language, but bad if you wanted to put that on your resume. So just some things to keep in mind when you're looking for a program to be the right fit. And the next question is about food security professors at SAIS. I'm not quite sure about that. You can look at our faculty profiles on our website. Most graduate schools have faculty profiles on their website. So you can look on that. Just off the top of my head, I'm not sure. And the next question's for Ryan, Georgetown, how much would a SFS degree prepare someone for U.S. Foreign Service or Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So our degrees are really interdisciplinary. So you're going to be looking at things through the lenses of history, politics, economics, and IR. So no matter if you're going to work in the U.S. government or in, MOFA or wherever you may go, you're going to be looking at it through the lens of, those different things. So the history, the politics, the economics. So that's the nice thing about being able to specialize. So not everyone, obviously goes into the U.S. State Department or the U.S. government. We don't want that, right? We want a diverse cohort of students that are going into many different sectors, public, private, multilat, right? So whatever you're going to focus on, you're going to look at it through an interdisciplinary approach. And so, you'll have your specialization, right? But just know that you're going to have a lot of different tools in your toolbox that you can pull from no matter where you go to work after the schools. So, and that's a nice thing about the MSFS degree or degrees in security studies or one of our regional or other thematic programs as well.
Thanks so much. One question is pretty to the point. Is there any difference in the tuition between international students and American students? And there's not. It's the same tuition that we have listed on our website. We also have to provide cost of attendance information, which is kind of our best guess as to how much you would be spending on average to live in DC and study at our school. So you can see that information on our websites. But no, we don't have different tuitions at all. I think this is our last question. If I am not a bachelor's degree holder in international relations, will I be disadvantaged in applying to IR graduate schools? And will extracurricular activities in IR be helpful? I saw Ryan shaking her head at that first question. It's not a disadvantage. It's how you market yourself, I would say. Would you agree with that, Ryan? Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, it's all about, and that's where your personal statement of purpose essay comes in. You want to show how you're tying your undergraduate degree to international relations. And if you can add extracurriculars in international relations or an internship or something like that, that's going to help too. So remember, it's not just about what you've done, but how you're presenting that information to us. So please keep that in mind. And I think I will hand it over to our organizers.
Thank you, Ludovica, Stephanie, and Ryan. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining our session. And I'm pretty sure you get all the helpful information about international relations in grad school. And if you have any questions, please let us know. And I'm pretty sure Johns Hopkins and Georgetown will send you follow-up emails as well. So please be safe, be healthy, and then don't forget we will have fairs at Busan, Seoul, and Okinawa this month. So hope to see you in person soon. And thank you so much again for the speakers. Thank you so much for the sessions. And have a great Friday night and Saturday and weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.